These shadows were eloquent and traditional. Miss Helen showed me millions, more or less, of Pringle photographs, many of them daguerreotypes in leather cases. A big tortoise shell cat came in, jumped on my knee, and was at once whisked out to the kitchen by Miss Helen. She apologized to me, but I expect she had previously apologized to the cat in the kitchen. Miss Helen last golden leaf will be blown from the aspens tonight. I think I've been invited to supper everywhere by now. I mean that I am so full of my peoples, both in town and country. And oh Gilbert, darling, I'm so sick of pumpkin preserves. Never, never let's have pumpkin preserves in our house of dreams. Almost everywhere I've gone for the last month, I've had to beef for supper. The first time I had it, I loved it. It was so cold that I felt I was eating preserved sunshine, and I incautiously raved about it. I got brooded about that I was very fond of beef. People had it on purpose for me. Last night I was going to Mr. Hamilton's and Rebecca Dew assured me that I wouldn't have to eat beef there because none of the Hamiltons liked it. But when we sat down to supper, there on the sideboard was the inevitable cut glass bowl full of beef. I hadn't any pumpkin preserves of my own, said Mrs. Hamilton, ladling me out a generous dishful, but I had heard he was so terribly partial to it, so when I was to my cousins at Lowvale last Sunday, I says to her, I'm having Miss Shirley to supper this week and she's terrible partial to pumpkin preserves. I wish you'd let me job her. So she did, and here it is, and you can take home what's left. You should have seen Rebecca Dew's face when I glass jar 2/3 full with the pee-pee. Nobody likes it here, so we buried it darkly at the dead of night in the garden. You won't put this in a story, will you? She asked anxiously. Ever since Rebecca Dew discovered that I do an occasional bit of fiction for the magazines, she's lived in the fear, or hope, I don't know which, that I'll put everything that happens at Windy Poplars into a story. She wants me to write up the Pringles and blister them. But, alas, it's the Pringles that are doing the blistering. Between them and my work in school, I've scanned so pointed that it was impossible to ignore it. Anne had sent her home, telling her that she would have to apologize before she would be allowed to come back. The fat was fairly in the fire. It was open warfare now between her and the Pringles, and poor Anne had no doubt on whose banner victory would perch. The school board would back the Pringles up, and she would be given her choice between letting Jen come back or being asked to resign. She felt very bitter. She had done her best, and she knew she could have succeeded if she had had even a fighting chance. It's not my fault, she thought miserably. Who could succeed against such a phalanx and such tactics? But to go home to Green Gables defeated, to endure Mrs. Lynde's indignation at the pie's exaltation, even the sympathy of friends would be an anguish, and with her summerside failure rooted abroad, she would never be able to get another school. But at least they had not got the better of her in the matter over the play, and laughed a little wickedly, and her eyes filled with mischievous delight over the memory. She had organised a high school dramatic club, and directed it, and a little play hurriedly got enough to provide some funds for one of her pet schemes, buying some good engravings for the room. She had made herself ask Catherine Brooks to help her, because Catherine always seemed so left out of everything. She could not help regretting it many times, for Catherine was even more brusque and sarcastic than usual. She seldom let a practice pass without some corrosive remark, and she overworked her eyebrows. Worse still, it was Catherine who had insisted on having Jen Pringle take the part of Mary Queen of Scots. There's no one else in the school who can play it, she said impatiently. No one who has the necessary personality. Anne was not so sure of this. She rather thought that Sophie Sinclair, who was tall and had hazel eyes and red chestnut hair, would make a far better Queen Mary than Jen. But Sophie was not even a member of the club and had never taken part in a play. We don't want absolute greenhorns in this. I'm not going to be associated with anything that is not successful, Catherine had said disagreeably, then had yielded. She could not deny that Jen was very good in the part. She had a natural flair for acting, and she apparently threw herself into it wholeheartedly. They practiced 4 evenings a week, and on the surface things went along very smoothly. Jen seemed to be so interested in her part that she behaved herself as far as the play was concerned. Anne did not meddle with her, but left her to Catherine's coaching. Once or twice, though, she surprised a certain look of sly triumph on Jen's face that puzzled her. She could not guess just what it meant. One afternoon, soon after the practices had begun, Anne found Sophie Sinclair in tears in a corner of the girls' coat room. At first she had blinked her hazel eyes vigorously and denied it, then broke down. I did so want to be in the play, to be Queen Mary, she sobbed. I've never had a chance. Father wouldn't let me join the club because there are dues to pay and every cent counts so much. And of course I haven't had any experience. I've always loved Queen Mary. Her name just thrills me to my fingertips. I never will believe she had anything to do with murdering Darnley. It would have been wonderful to fancy her as she for a little while. Afterward, Anne so much going on. Well, I always thought it was foolish to try to get up a play this time of the year. We are not going to postpone it, said Anne, her eyes as green as John's own. She was not going to say it to Catherine Brooks, but she knew as well as she had ever known anything in her life that John Pringle was in no more danger of tonsillitis than she was. It was a deliberate device, whether any of the other Pringles were a party to it or not, to ruin the play because she and Shirley had sponsored it. Oh, if you feel that way about it, said Catherine with a nasty shrug. But what do you intend to do? Get someone to read the part? That would ruin it. Mary is the whole play. Sophie Sinclair can play the part as well as Jan. The costume will fit her. Thanks for you made it and have it, not Jan. The play was put on that night before a packed audience. A delighted Sophie played Mary. Was Mary, as Jan Pringle could never have been. Look at Mary in her velvet robes and ruff and jewels. Students of Summerside High would have never seen Sophie in anything but a plain, dowdy, dark serge dresses, shapeless coat and shabby hat, stared at her in amazement. It was insisted on the spot that she become a permanent member of the New Dramatic Club. Anne herself paid the membership fee, and from then on she was one of the pupils who counted in Summerside High. But nobody knew or dreamed, Sophie herself least of all, that she had taken the first step that night on a pathway that was to lead to the stars. 20 years later, Sophie Sinclair was to be one of the leading actresses in America, but probably no plaudits ever sounded so sweet in her ears as the wild applause amid which the curtain fell that night. Summerside Town Hall. Mrs. James Pringle took a tale home to her daughter Jen, which would have turned that damsel's eyes green if they had not been already so. For once, as Rebecca Dew said feelingly, Jen had got her comeuppance, and the eventual result was the insult, the composition to unimportant happenings. Anne went down to the old graveyard along a deep rutted lane between high mossy stone dukes dazzled with the frosted ferns, slim pointed lumber shower.